When the iPad mini was released all the way back in 2012, its purpose was simple: to bridge the gap between iPhones and iPads. People wanted bigger devices, but not so big that it was the size of a tablet. And voila, the iPad mini fit that niche perfectly. But what's interesting is that while this was a successful business move on Apple's part 6 years ago, the iPad mini makes no sense today and should absolutely be taken out of Apple's lineup of iPads. Hey, how's it going? I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and today we're going to be talking about why the iPad mini is no longer useful and is in fact utterly pointless. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the iPad mini doesn't have its place with some consumers. What I am saying is that that place is much smaller and more rare nowadays, and as such isn't worth it for Apple to keep around. The current iPad mini is from 2015, and one that shares hardware with the iPhone 6. It only has the A8 chipset, and while it's okay in 2018, and certainly not unusable by any means, it simply isn't good enough to be sold brand new, especially for the full price of $400. Now, to be fair, that is coming with 128 gigs of storage, as well as 2 gigs of RAM, but in comparison we can get a brand new 2018 iPad that has 128 gigs of storage for only $429, and we could get a 32 gig model for $100 less. So essentially for $30 more, or $70 less if you're okay with lower storage, you can get a bigger display and the A10 Fusion chip. It's just no competition. The 2018 iPad is a much better value deal. So why does Apple even still sell the iPad mini for? Well, I have no idea. There doesn't seem to be much of a point to it. I can't see it being particularly profitable anymore. It's a niche product for a group that doesn't really even exist anymore. And what group is that? One that wants a device bigger than an iPhone, but smaller than an iPad. The 2018 iPad comes in at 9.7 inches, while the iPad mini comes in at 7.9. The iPhone 8 Plus is 5.5 inches, and the iPhone 10 is 5.8 inches. But it does feel smaller than the 8 because it isn't as wide. When the iPad mini was originally created, its competition was the iPad 4 at 9.7 inches, the iPhone 4S at 3.5 inches, and the iPhone 5 at 4 inches. What does this all mean? I'm basically just shouting numbers at you. When iPhones were smaller and Apple didn't make them bigger, the iPad mini was the best option if you didn't need a huge tablet. But with the introduction of the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus in 2014, this middle ground was no longer needed, as iPhones weren't small enough to justify having an in-between device. And this has been reflected by the releases of the iPad mini, with the last one coming out only a year after the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus. Not only is screen size now a less crucial factor in buying an iPad mini, but so is practicality. Originally in 2012, it was a smaller, lighter, and thinner device than its big brother, the iPad 4, but that's really no longer the case, and hasn't been since the iPad Air, which originally came out in 2013. It kind of adopted the iPad mini's look and also took on a much lighter weight than its predecessor and removed another reason to buy the smaller option. The iPad 2, 3, and 4 were all very chunky, and the Air finally changed this. But all that being said, besides size, the biggest reason most people bought the iPad mini is because of its, at the time, lower price tag. But again, this is really no longer a thing, with it even being more expensive than the much better 2018 iPad. The iPad mini should no longer exist, but it does, so what's going to happen? Well, either Apple needs to make a 5th generation iPad mini, or they need to discontinue it altogether. As much as I'd like to see a new iPad mini, it doesn't make sense from a business standpoint, and I think we'll soon see it go the way of the iPod. In conclusion, the iPad mini is no longer useful because it serves a purpose that no longer exists. iPhones are big enough that we don't need a smaller iPad, or at least the vast majority don't, and that's why Apple isn't making more iPad minis. I think it's a travesty that Apple is still selling this 3-year-old device for $400, and I hope they'll remove it soon, or at least give it a much needed price decrease. While we can dream for a new model, realistically that will probably never happen. I really like the iPad mini. I always have. I always wanted one when I was younger, and I have one now, although the first generation iPad mini, but I don't think that really means anything, because the fact of the matter is, with my iPhone 10, I don't need an iPad mini. It's big enough. If I want to get a bigger tablet, I would just get an iPad. But with that all said, I think I'm pretty much done here. This is a short video, but hopefully I managed to get my point across. If you found this video interesting, maybe hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content just like this. You can stalk me over on Twitter and Instagram, links below. And with that all being said, I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and I will see you all next time.